So anyways, today my name is Kim Johnson, and just a little bit about me. I have worked for over a decade with the local technical and tribal technical assistance programs. If you don't know what those are programs led by Federal Highway Administration, and basically the goal of those programs are to increase the skills of the workforce. And so at some point along the way, I have worked with every single one of these panel members, whether it be an event or a training session, or in some capacity as a fellow TTAP director with Ron Hall. And so, we're a little bit down to earth when we talk to each other because we've known each other for a while. So, but anyways, I'm gonna start off and really just let our experts tell us a little bit about themselves. We have a very diverse group up here. Each one of these members have very different perspectives and very different backgrounds. And I also know that we have tribal members in the audience back there. Cheyenne Arapaho's here, Woody White's here. And so please feel free to join in on this conversation with us, because we know that we need to learn from you. We know you know a lot about what's going on in your community. And so we'll start. Skylar, you want to stand up, or do you want to just sit down? Or
good morning. I'm Skylar Matthews. I'm working with the Ponca Nation as their project manager. I'm assisting Woody White with their transportation program. We are updating their LRTP safety plan. I've worked with Ponca Nation for 5 years as their transportation director. I also worked with Southern Plains BIA Department of Transportation with Tom Simpson, Lonnie Hammer, and JR. They're a good group of guys. Got to learn quite a bit from them, and then I had 10 years of experience working for Ponca Nation Environmental Department under Dr. Jenny. Did some schooling at OSU, and then was working on another degree with AMU, American Military University, for government contracting acquisition. I've also spent the last 18, almost 19 years in the Oklahoma Army National Guard, and will be retiring here pretty quick.
thank you for your service.
Na hornia tangaskun naisive na tista na sita na hitametan. Hello, good morning. My name is Chris. They also call me Wolf Boy, which is also translated into Pawnee Boy. I got by my Cheyenne people. I'm also Pawnee. I'm enrolled Pawnee, but I was raised by my Cheyenne people. We usually generally take on our grandmother's lineage, but I took on my grandfather's, which is the Cheyenne side. I'm also involved with a part of the Northern Cheyenne tribe, Sitayo. That's why I said Sitayo. I'm also a part of the Dog Soldier Society here in Oklahoma and Northern Cheyenne up in Montana. I'm rather young and experienced in the transportation department, but I do have gained a lot of knowledge and valuable information since I've been in the department. I got my bachelor's in science in business administration with the emphasis in management. I know it's a mouthful, but I got that at Haskell Indian Nations University. If you don't know where that's at, that's just 16 blocks south of Haskell, or KU, Kansas University. So we're a sister bridge school with KU, and I was fortunate enough to take classes at KU while I was enrolled at Haskell. So, I really give a lot of credit to KU too as well. I got my business degree there. I came back, and I spent a few years in our workforce department for the Cheyenne Arapaho tribes, and I learned a lot of valuable information there. Learned how to navigate, the resources that WIOA and WIOA employment training has to offer. Really enjoyed it there, but then I took a hiatus, I guess you could say, and then I found myself in the transportation department. I started as a general labor, and then I worked myself up to lead labor, supervisor, and project manager. I went and then became the program director now for the Roads Division for the Department of Transportation at Cheyenne Arapaho Tribes. We've got a lot of projects in progress right now. We have a lot of projects pending on the shelf right now. We're looking to get after it. A little bit of what we've done since I've started there, we went from a program of just 6 to 12. So we did build a little workforce within our program, and we're starting to do a lot of our own work now because of that. Main thing was to get our guys certified so that we were insurable, and now we're bonded and insured, and almost a force account crew now. So that's a little bit about us. Thanks.
I'll go with this one. You might want to move that one that way. Yeah, we'll get screwed. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Ron Hall. I work at the Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute at North Dakota State University. I manage the tribal transportation program there. And I also co-direct the Tribal Technical Assistance Program for the northern area. So we serve the tribes in North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Montana through that TTAP center. And under the UTC, we also serve Utah and within that same group. So we cover quite an area. Previous to this, I worked at Colorado State University and directed the Tribal Technical Assistance Program for the Four Corner States. So there I worked with the tribes in New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. I've kind of been in this world of transportation, workforce development, and capacity building for tribes for a good number of years now. I started in '94 at Colorado State University. So my background, I'm enrolled at the 3 affiliated tribes. So I'm a Rickaron, Hidatsa, and Mandan from North Dakota. And grew up in that part of the country, North Dakota and South Dakota. My dad was a Bureau of Indian Affairs highway engineer at the agency level, agency road engineer. So that's kind of how I grew up working in that space and going out with him on those trips to see things. That kind of probably influenced how I got into this world. My training, education, I'm a lawyer. I worked for about 15 years general counsel for tribes. So as a general counsel, you're kind of like a attorney general. Whatever comes across the desk, you work on it. So I got a good exposure to jurisdictional issues, education, housing, water issues, you name it. You have to get up to speed on it pretty quick and be able to, advocate on the tribe's behalf. And so being able to focus on transportation was, a good break, I guess, from having to drink out of the fire hose of a general counsel every day in and day out. And it's really been clear to me that I use my lawyer background because one thing about tribal communities, everything has a legal aspect to it. It doesn't matter in daily life. I've heard it said that the average Native American knows more about law than the average attorney because everything has some federal legislative something behind it. And so in working in transportation, you touch on a number of all of those community things. Transportation touches everything: healthcare, access to education. There's nothing it doesn't impact or affect. And so I really enjoy working in this space and the people I get to work with.
Hi, my name is Brandy Vasquez, and I am the Business Operations Manager for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma's new FAA UAS test range. I actually came over from the Education Department, so I bring a perspective of what students today are really facing in the middle school, high school arena. My background actually is in business, but prior to that, I actually worked with individuals with disabilities, teaching life skills as well as getting folks into the workforce.
So I hope to bring a unique perspective to this panel today, and I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, hello and good morning. My name is Abby Thompson, and I am a Potawatomi County Commissioner in District 3. A little bit of my background, I'm glad you touched on disabilities. So there aren't very many female county commissioners in the state of Oklahoma. Out of 231, there are 7 females. I also bring a unique perspective in the fact that I have epilepsy, so I don't drive. So I'm kind of an oxymoron. But I've been very blessed in this role. I get to work closely with ODOT, and we collaborate, and I also was able to repair that relationship with the local tribes in my area, and we have accomplished so much together. So I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Such a diverse group, so I'm going to ask a bunch of questions to you. Okay, so as you know, I don't know if you know this, but in the state of Oklahoma, there's 39 federally recognized tribes. And one of the goals for the Southern Plains Transportation Center is to learn about the needs, the workforce needs of not just our tribal nations, but also our rural workers as well, which I know, Abby, you can talk to that to us for a minute. But I'm sure this is a goal for all the UTCs, is to gain more knowledge of how we can help these communities. And so I'm going to start here and just talk about questions about the workforce demand and hiring needs, and then we can develop into education as we move further. But I'm going to start with you, Abby. What transportation-related occupations does your organization currently employ, and which positions are the hardest to fill?
So a major one is CDL drivers. So we have to get our heavy equipment out on our rural roads, and you have to be a licensed CDL driver to do so. That has been very hard to fill. I know they touched on it earlier. There is a nationwide shortage. I actually had issues with, they would come and work for the county. I would pay for their CDL training and certification, and then they would leave, and they would go work for larger private corporations, make a lot more money than what the county could offer them. So I would say CDL drivers and heavy equipment operators.
Anybody else want to touch on that?
So currently we employ aerospace engineers, mechanical engineers, aviation specialists, as well as aviation technologists. We also employ folks in the STEM field in education as well.
Ron?
Well, I was part of in the Tribal Technical Assistance Program, we do a needs assessment of the training needs of tribes in our region. And so I've had the ability to kind of see that over several years now. And also in October 2024, we did a peer exchange at the campus of Esri in Redlands, California. We invited a cross-section of tribes from across the nation. We wanted the large tribe, small tribe, rural, urban, north, south, east, west, kind of a mix of Alaska. And to talk about what the workforce needs are within the tribal representatives. To see what are the themes that come out of it. And, the tribes are very diverse in how they're structured and set up. But there were some real themes that came out of it. And so the development, education for elected leaders, for the tribal councils and folks, so that they understand how to care and feed for their transportation departments became, was a big theme. And you can really see it where the tribal leaders are educated and supportive of their transportation program. The people within that program do very well. They're really advancing, participating in the right forums and so on. And where there's not leadership support, they're absent. You don't see, they don't get the travel money, they don't get to those things to stay engaged. So there's that issue of supporting the knowledge base of the elected officials in the community. And other than that, from the field, the technical side, you know, it's all needed, from equipment operators to the flaggers to just getting everybody in the right place at the right time with the right skills is a challenge across the board.
Chris, do you want to follow up on that?
Well, that was hard to follow up on right there. But, you know, one of our, you know, we're talking about major obstacles, right? So the main one for us was a basic license. You know, it was hard to find a qualified candidate with a basic license.
A basic driver's license?
Basic driver's license.
Wow, not CDL.
Yeah, no, just the CDL. It's just a basic driver's license. And sure, we got a lot of candidates, but you know, half of them didn't have a license.
So, I mean, so how did you get around that? What are you doing to?
I would vet them. We would vet them through a screening process, and if they didn't have a license, they would go into a separate pile. And, you know, that's how we vetted them. You can't be insured if you don't have a driver's license. So, in our being a transportation roads division, you know, we make a lot of calls, on-site calls, field calls, and we have to have a license to get there. I can't drive them everywhere. So, you know, that was a huge gap for us. It was finding licensed candidates.
Well, have you or your organization reached out to or partnered with anybody to try to see, you know, if you could
Absolutely, yes.
train the workforce?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have been having talks and meetings with our okay, I would like to point out two of my great mentors are here. Department Executive Director Angela Plumley, which is the Department of Transportation. Executive Director Erwin Pamami, Department of Labor. I've worked for both of them, and this is where I'm at now because of them. And under these departments, there's programs that do offer some of these resources to help them, you know, get their license back, help them pay their reinstatement fees, their ADSAT classes, their victim impact panels. I mean, there's resources there to get them to that point, but we just have to, you know, you can lead them to water, but, you know, you can't force them to drink.
So do you feel like that, let me just ask this, do you feel like that you're constantly, you know, your workforce is short-staffed because of some of these training barriers?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, being in a rural area like we are, you know, you have to travel, and that's a necessity. And you know, without that, you know, it has been a big obstacle, barrier for us. But like I said, we have a program. We're streamlining resources now to help them get their licenses back, you know, and to help them pay for their reinstatements and things like that. So.
Can I jump in and
Yes,
say
please
something?
do.
So what I'm seeing in our rural area is, you know, I don't know about everybody else in this room, but 16 couldn't come fast enough for me, okay? That meant freedom, right? But now, kids today are like, nope, it is too scary. Yeah. It is way too scary. They don't want to get out. They don't want their driver's license. Now my daughter, she was like, oh yeah, I got this, right? And I have dents in my car because of it. But she's unique. Believe it or not, most of her friends are like, nope, give me a taxi. I can Uber. I've got, you know, DoorDash. I've got Instacart. I've got everything I need right here. I don't need to go to the store because somebody else will do it for me. And I think that's part of it because, you know, when you have students that come from small communities, even though they're driving, you know, 45 miles to the nearest Walmart, right? Walmart in a town of about 50,000 people is about as wild and crazy as it gets, right?
Like
and so, yeah. And so when they hear things like going to Norman, you know, to go to college, that's near Oklahoma City, and there's lots of people. And there's just so much going on. And then there's also but there's also public transportation too. So I think it kind of starts early, maybe with, you know, the mindset of, you know, folks, because in our area, not all schools offer driver's education. And so, we were blessed. We were able to pay for my daughter to go to, you know, a driving school. There's no way I would have done that, right? I don't think we would have lived through it. But, you know, truly, some people, not everybody can afford that. I mean, they're hundreds of dollars, right? So there's got to be an alternative. Right now, it's either that or your parents teach you and then they sign the papers and, you know, so I think there's got to be more opportunity out there for.
Driver's ed is a big one. We just started offering that to them too, for the ones coming up.
Through the
Graduating.
tribal community?
Yeah, we help them pay for their driver's ed. I think we even offer, we offer now, so.
What about you, Skylar?
So I've had the honor and privilege working with several tribes in Oklahoma, a few in Kansas, and one down in Texas over the years. So the main stuff is pretty similar between the county and the other tribes. All the tribes are looking for CDL drivers, equipment operators. The unicorns that I've seen are heavy equipment mechanics and geospatial engineers. So a big critical piece for tribal transportation programs is putting all your stuff into WFDS and updating your LRTP, and you have to have strip maps and all that stuff. So critical piece on actually doing the project is structural engineers. Those staff members usually require a higher paying salary with the experience that they need to engineer some of the bridges or road projects. So our mitigation or kind of workaround on that is working with CED or county level assets. Some of the bigger counties might have some onboard staff like that, but also the other workaround is working with Federal Highway or Bureau of Indian Affairs or contracting it out is how we've done it in the past.
So, okay, so in summary here, we've talked about the challenges, and we can see that, you know, Abby talked about CDLs being a challenge. Skylar talked about CDLs. Chris is saying, and Brandy, basic driver's license. So let me say, out of the applicants, obviously being a skilled worker on the road requires many different certifications, and they need to know how to operate machinery. They need to know how to do many things. So when your applicants are applying, is there any level of certifications or qualifications they're meeting to be ready to go to work, be on the job? Are you seeing this at all, or is it a constant issue, barrier there with unqualified applicants?
So for us, I mean, obviously being in a rural area, finding folks to come our direction is a struggle. But one of the things that I have noticed is being in the UAS space, military, personnel, they have a lot of experience in that arena, right? But where there is a gap is there's a difference in that application and then also on the civil side. So if someone came to us today, it may take us every bit of 4 or 5 months to get them to understand and learn really what we do and how to apply it in that area, in our space outside of the military. So,
You know, a lot of our candidates that come in, you know, they don't have the certifications. You know, they might have the experience,
right.
you know, but they don't have the certifications. So one thing that we did in our Department of Transportation was, and one thing that got me to want to come to the Department of Transportation was the incentive to go to training and to get these certifications, and knowing that, you know, I had a director that was going to push us towards gaining those goals and acquiring those certifications. They're valuable. They really are. Because when something ever happened on that piece of equipment and you didn't have that certification, and even though you're insured, you as an employer weren't making sure that they knew exactly what they were doing on that equipment. So you're really liable in that fault. So once we found that out, we You know, our whole workforce is, I mean, including myself, is heavy equipment operators. You
Well,
know,
so in your mind, do you think that local schools or training programs are preparing transportation workers?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Even though you might not get the experience there, you're getting the certification. You can take that to any district, any transportation program, department, and use that. I really do feel like that because it really puts you up on the list too when you're going against other candidates. When you have that certification, it's really a plus. So when I see that you already have the certifications I'm looking for, oh, you're a unicorn.
Because it is difficult, right? Do you think it's more difficult because some of the geographically rural areas that you're out, are a lot of people not applying for those jobs?
Well, you know, a lot of them are the best operators out there. You know, we get a lot of those guys. Oh, I'm the best
Oh.
operator you'll ever have.
Sure.
You know, until they get on the equipment. But so yeah, it's a give and take. You know, experience doesn't always mean better. You know, just like education.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes experience is better than education.
On-the-job training. So Abby, I know you wanted to weigh in on something here.
I just wanted to point out, so I'm very rural Oklahoma, and the problem that we're having is finding people that are even interested. They'll want to come and fill out an application, but then when you explain to them, you know, what this job entails, they're no longer interested.
So we've talked about some of the problems. Let's talk about some of the solutions. So what do you do about that? How do you, does this mean that all your transportation projects run behind, or how are you trying to fix this problem?
So in county government, we work closely with LTAP.
Yes.
And so there are a lot of certifications and programs out there. And so I, as a county commissioner, try to impress that on, you know, on my current employees, on anybody that comes and applies, try to make incentives for them to want to do continuing ed and get certified.
And so what is the county doing? I'm still curious about the CDLs. I'd like to hear about CDLs because I know CDLs have been an issue. That very expensive. Federal motor carrier came in, a couple years ago, Ron, and changed all the rules. And so it's very difficult to get your CDL license, which very much has affected our tribal and rural communities. And I know that that's been a problem nationwide, and I know that I wasn't surprised that somebody brought that up, that you brought that up here today. But you said, you know, you go, you pay, you bring in a worker, you pay for them to go this exorbitant price to go get, I think, is it still a couple $1,000s or more to get a person trained? And there's nothing, you know, that's a hard thing for anyone to. I mean, that's a hard thing for anybody to have to go through, you know. So what are you going to do? What do you do? And so you hire him, you go get him trained, and he leaves and gets a job with the big trucking company. How's the county fixing that?
So what we did was we implemented a contract. So if we're going to pay for you to go to CDL school, you're going to work for us for at least 3 years. And that's been pretty effective. Also, the county partnered with our local technology center, and we started our own CDL training program, and we actually use one of the county yards to do the driving portion of it.
Oh, really? Okay, so I know the driving portion is the most expensive part of that. I know that this is going to be a diverse, answers here. Ron, do you want to weigh in?
Well, not so much on the CDL thing, but across the, one thing I see, so the funding that tribes get for their programs is beyond unreasonable, right? It's not sufficient. And so though the tribal programs have the same responsibilities as a state DOT in function, you know, right-of-way, environment, design, all those things a tribe has to do. And if on certain systems, particularly the BIA system out there, if the tribe doesn't do it, it's not going to be done. Those roads are not going to be improved. They're going to be unsafe. And so in that underfunded, high responsibility environment, people have to wear so many hats, right? Okay. And so the solution most tribal organizations do is they contract out to get, you know, particularly, you know, things that need to be certified and so on. So engineering and design, a lot of things get contracted out. But the people who are representing the tribe in that transaction to get the work done often aren't trained on how to manage a contract or how to speak engineering so they understand what it is they're getting, and then to do the quality assurance and so on the back end to know that they're getting what they're paying for. So to me, there's a big gap there. If you're going to be in a contract out operation, to train for that, right, as opposed to being the doer of the thing, and so there's that need that I see, and in the you know, with all AI coming out, how do you know if you're advertised for a transportation plan to update your long-range transportation plan, and how do you know that you're getting something that is not just an AI product, right? Or you're getting the bids, proposals come in at a traditional, you know, the way pen and paper kind of a process for data collection and analysis and community engagement and all that kind of thing. What goes into an LRTP, but with AI, how do you know if what your vendors are providing you is what they bid it at, or if they're using an AI tool that cut 3/4 of the time out, but they're giving you the same original bid price on it? And is the quality there? So to me, that I see as the challenge coming at small, overburdened, you know, groups. How to use AI to your advantage? You know, is it something you should prohibit, or is it something you should allow? That initial gateway to the technology, yes or no? And then if it's, you know, I don't see no as an option anymore because of the pervasiveness of this technology, the money behind it, the direction every industry is going, and using this as a way we do business. So that's it. But there's still, I talk with a number of small community people, that answer's no. So we have a gap already, right? And so if we're looking at the yes part of it, that just opens a whole nother big issue of training and policy and procedure, governance across the, you know, you can't just do it on a department level. You have to do it across the whole organization, across the whole state departments, across the whole tribal organization, across the whole county, right? So I think that, to me, that's the thing that keeps me up at night. Is this, you know, is this a dream of glory that a tribal employee can use an AI agent and assistant to do all these correspondence and all the generative AI activities and be successful, and all of a sudden they don't, you know, they're able to do 10 times more than they were yesterday? Or is it a nightmare where all of a sudden, you know, data breaches they're shutting down, you know, personally identifiable information is out there, sacred sites. You know, one of the things that tribes have a lot of confidential information that they don't want getting out. And as we're building these data everythings, how do you protect what you need to protect? And so there's really some excitement around it, but the risks are there too. And to me, that's really an exciting world, because I see it, you know, it's happening. It's here, and we're in it. So.
Okay, so with that being said, what workforce development programs would help the organization the most then? What kind of programs to help fix some of the barriers that you just discussed?
This slide it down right here.
So project planning and project management would be a critical piece in that, because as Ron was saying, when a tribe develops its LRTP, it's planning for the next 20 years in 5-year blocks. So that critical piece is budgeting out your first 5-year plan and then setting up projects that will tie into. And typically you'd want to spider web your way out from the main complex, or like a new housing addition. There was quite a bit of HUD funding that was coming out, so some of the tribes are leveraging their TP programs to allow access to these new urban development block grants. But going into the actual piece of getting a qualified staff member, it goes back to the geospatial engineering piece, because that's 90% of getting everything figured out, finding out your linear distance, your elevations, your topos, getting your flow lines. I mean, that's a critical piece.
Does anybody else want to weigh in? Brandy?
I'm sorry. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
no.
I kind of want to go backwards just a little bit. So when we talk about solutions, at the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, there are several. I think what it boils, personally, what I think it boils down to is exposure. So when you look at rural Oklahoma, a lot of students have never been outside of rural Oklahoma, and it's just a reality. And so I always use my daughter's best friend as the example, so here we go. So apologize if you've heard this. You know, I had asked her, you know, oh, so what do you want to do when you get out of school besides get out of school? And she's like, I don't know, I really love STEM, but I don't know what like there is to do, so I'll just be a pharmacist. And I hate that, right? Not because of the profession that she is just gonna go ahead and go do. It's because she doesn't know what there is out there for her, right? And so one of our initiatives at the Advanced Technology Initiatives Department, where I work, is exposing students in this state to our test range, right? So a lot of times students in these smaller schools, they code, right? They code, but they don't know why they code, or they know that they could, you know, maybe make a video game, right? But we also want to expose them to other areas of coding and how it applies to, you know, aviation and our space. And we have, at the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, somebody had asked a question earlier about WIOA and 477. And the Choctaw Nation, we have a different program. It used to be called WIOA, but it's not anymore. But we have 477 youth employment services programs. We have internships. This year we're going to have 2 interns come in. One of them is an aerospace engineer. The other one, I believe, has a master's in quantum economics. So we're so we're really excited about these opportunities, as well as we invite students from all across the state to come. Today, actually, we are hosting roughly 75 from our area schools that are in the boundaries of the reservation. They are a part of one of our programs called Elevate, and that is through our career development education program. And they're going to come out and learn about aviation and all things drones today.
So exposing our youth to more opportunity.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so I want to say, does anybody want to weigh in on anything, any other thoughts?
I'll share one.
Okay.
And it's kind of a UTC and a research kind of perspective on things, but sometimes we get in the role where a solution looking for a problem, and we get ahead of the curve in trying to find solutions for local challenges, right? And so from my perspective, it's really, and what Denver alluded to in his comments was we have to get out into the communities, and you have to listen and before you start solving anybody's problems or trying to tell anybody what their problem is in their particular organization. So, we're trying to, that's what we're trying to develop, you know, that deep listening capability, which takes time and resources on the university and on the center's part to be in those spaces where tribes are talking and where they're, you know, and we can help be facilitators or the creator of the opportunity to bring convener of those discussions, but to get out of the way at the same time and listen. and then come in with responding to what the ask is. If we can get an ask, we're way ahead instead of trying to come in with a, here's the latest and greatest at the same time. And one thing I wanted to, one of the big gaps that we're in a historical kind of a context of is that just living in this data-driven world, the states and the rest of the transportation industry has been directed to be data-driven since Ice-T in 1991 when they created the management systems. And in 1978 when they created the Highway Performance Management System. All that data collection of your infrastructure and how you manage it and creating asset management systems, right? So that requirement never applied to the Bureau of Indian Affairs when they were fully running the tribal transportation program. And then when it transitioned over to tribal management, those systems, those requirements, and that support to do those things never came to pass. So therein is a institutional gap in operating a 2026 transportation program and how we cut and paste and get over that. That's a challenge for the local community to understand the challenge and then to figure out how they want to move forward to it and how we can support them in advancing under the way business is done today.
So as we spoke earlier, Southern Plains Transportation Center is just one university transportation center out of many across the nation. A big goal of each university transportation center is to increase the skills of the workforce and partner with our communities, rural, tribal, any of our communities. So you have UTCs, many UTC leaders in this room. And so if I had to ask you, how could a UTC help you break down some of your workforce development barriers? Anybody want to tack on that?
Well, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head, and a lot of it is education, educating people, and making the resources available, especially I know in rural Oklahoma. A lot of times we just don't have the resources.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we are also jumping off into is we were awarded an almost $2 million SMART grant from the Department of Transportation to do medical delivery within the boundaries of the reservation via drone. And so one of the pieces to that was that we partnered with the University of Oklahoma, and we are working with several people in this room to create a workforce development plan for this. Because when you think of drone medical delivery, there's all kinds of crazy pieces, right, to that. I mean, from people that need to know how to fix the drones when they break, to those folks being at the labs to be able to, retrieve the samples and the things that are going from point A to point B, as well as those that are operating the drones and everything in between. I mean, I wouldn't even want to jump off into what jobs it could possibly look like at this point, because this is such a fluid environment. But we are working with OU to accomplish that goal. So,
Thank you. All right, Chris, so how can a University Transportation Center, do you think
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a product of a UTC.
You are?
Yeah.
Outstanding.
I'm a product of UTCs. And if it wasn't for UTCs, I wouldn't be where I am now. I came in really green, and with the help of UTCs and the resources that they offered, I became a Rhodes Scholar champion and safety champion.
Outstanding.
And I got all the certs under my belt now. I know what I'm talking about. I can speak with authority. You know what I mean? I got a seat at the table, and I can discuss things now. I know what I'm talking about. And if it wasn't for those UTCs, I definitely wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. And Skylar, what do you think? Do you think there's a good opportunity for your tribal organization to, how could we help you? How could a UTC work with you to really make a difference in the workforce spirit and the workforce needs in your organizations?
I think if there was some sort of intern program for maybe a 30 or 60, 90 day, whatever the cert is, maybe the tribe or county could provide some sort of on-the-job training for that 30 days, and then maybe move into a 60-day or 90-day program, and then maybe roll into a full-time position.
That's very, very, very interesting and very doable, I think. So I'm going to open up the, thank you all for all your perspective, first of all, but I want to open it up and see if there's any questions in the audience. I mean, this is such a diverse group here, and I know that tribes are unique. They have a lot of different things that they go through that we sometimes don't understand. Like Ron said, that, USD, DOT working, and what happens to a DOT and a tribe. DOT is totally two different things. So is there any questions in the audience for our tribal organizations and rural? Abby's here as well. No? Michael? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, you had mentioned that there was some apprehension about like traveling long distances, like to Oklahoma City or Norman, a lot of people and everything. What's the appetite like if, say, a UTC or a university were to facilitate travel to bring students onto a campus, or for experiences at a DOT, or for hands-on things like that? Like, is there an appetite for that, or would there be more like, oh, I don't know, that's kind of outside our comfort zone?
Anyone? Go ahead. Brandy?
I think it goes back to exposure. So I think anything that you can do to possibly expose students to something that is, scary to them, right? And driving in our area seems to be, for whatever reason, right now, terrifying. And so I think it would be wonderful.
We like to take advantage of anything like that over here at the Shiner Post. If you're offering to send us there and there to gain valuable knowledge, yeah, we'll take it. And that's why I really give credit to my executive director for always, giving us the incentives and encouraging us to gain the certifications, go get the schooling, the training that we need. So.
Can I say something to add to that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you.
Angela
do.
Plumley, Executive Director for Department of Transportation. And I think what you're asking is how the tribes would welcome that. And I believe for the Shiner Arapaho tribes, we do welcome that. We actually, our tribal lands serve as a site for a national, statewide competition on soil, because we host so many different soils at our home base there at Concho, Oklahoma, that's north of El Reno. And every year we see busloads of kids show up, and they do a competition. I think it's related to ag. And so I know the tribes welcome other agencies to come to our area. And if it's specifically related to training, we're always reaching out to the LTAP to bring them to the tribes. Counties are invited, state representatives, state agencies is what I'm referring to. And then recently, our emergency manager had a meeting, and I mean, there were county representatives from different fire and emergency response teams that came, and they were talking about the tornado season, and so I know it's welcomed at the Cheyenne Arapaho tribes when agencies come to us, and it does help. It really helps us get out to the rural areas if we can set them up in the rural communities, and I'm always advocating for us to go to the tribal members versus asking the tribal member to come to us. So I believe that's what you were referring to, and I think that's the same across most tribes across the state of Oklahoma.
Thank you so much for that comment. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have Dr. Zaman.
So my question is regarding the internship with tribal students. So I think, as you know, that SPTC provides opportunity to students while they are at school. So maybe anything that you could help recruit students for internship, or maybe you can share your experience as to what works within the tribal communities and tribal governments. That would be helpful.
I just want to follow up with that and say, thank you, Dr. Zaman, and say, if you weren't aware, that UTCs have there's a lot of way to partner with UTC to help increase the skills of your employees. And I'm not sure that the internships, like I said, we're just getting out now and really trying to work with the tribes. I know I've talked to Angela. I know I've talked with Brandy, and so for tribal internships. But I think does that seem to be helpful? I mean, do you think that that's going to be a helpful way to get some of these students excited about transportation and trained? And do you think that that your organization is interested in those type of things?
I believe so. I actually started out as an intern at Carnation and was going to school at OSU back to back in 2004 and 2005. So I know the program is kind of way before it is now, but it worked then. I think the model could be updated a little bit, and going forward, I think tribes would definitely like the extra help while training upcoming staff as well.
I think a lot of our young students that are in college right now, a lot of them don't even know that we have like a transportation department,
Right.
and a lot of them don't know that we might need an engineer, I'd really love a civil engineer on our team. I would just love that.
Right.
But in order for them to become that civil engineer, they'd have to go study under an actual engineer for years.
Right.
So, that's kind of like why these talks are going on. We're already talking about bringing interns to our department.
Yep.
So this is exciting stuff. So to answer your question, yes, we would welcome, and we'd love to have some interns come in, and sometimes you guys that are in the books right now, you're reading and learning techniques and methods we don't know of yet. Some of these might be new innovative technologies, and a lot of different things that are getting innovative every day. So.
Thank you, Chris. Now, I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, thank you again for coming and sharing your perspective, but I want to ask you one more thing before we, last thing, and we only have just a quick minute, and that is, hold on, I just had it here. What new skills will your workforce need in the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you going to accomplish that? Does anybody want to take that? Ron?
I'll jump in here.
What new skills will your workforce need in the next 5, 10 years? and
I
how are you
have
gonna
no
accomplish it?
idea.
Well, you can.
Because look, what we're doing is vastly different, right? And so it is emerging technology. And so what is relevant right now could be completely different in a year.
Right.
Right? So I think having a foundation is probably again, I keep going back to it, but exposure and a foundation of, engineering as well as, a trade, and so I think there's a lot, and we're always open to interns and all kinds of things, so I don't know.
Ron, I think you wanted to weigh in on that?
Well, yeah, I think the whole intern thing and being able to shadow somebody who's doing the work is, makes a huge difference in somebody's outlook, right? And otherwise, you don't know what you don't know. So that to me is a big opportunity area, and right now for working within a tribal organization, we have a shortage. We don't have the curriculum put together yet.
Yeah.
We don't have the handbooks or the how-tos for the step-by-step thing it takes to do a tribal transportation program. And we hosted the National Tribal Road Maintenance Symposium 2 years ago in Rapid City, and we had tribal leaders get into the microphone and other folks saying, this is the first job I ever had where I didn't have any instruction on how to do my job when I came when I started. I had to figure everything out. And so we don't have that curriculum manual, how to, and that's going to change over the next 5, 10 years anyway, but you know, so we have to create that, and that takes effort and time and money. So that's what I see.
Well, thank you again. Thank you, all of you, for being here today. And is there any other comments that any of you would like to make? No? You're good? In the audience? We're good? So can you, oh, we have a question here.
I wanted to say that you are all really big inspirations for us Indigenous students in the transportation field, and we all look up to you. Awesome. And we are proud to see this.
Again, thank you all for being here. I know a lot of you came a long way, and it was a rainy morning, and I appreciate it. So if we can give them one last round of applause for being here today. And I know it's time to eat. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late.